Pinball. Aside from crushing loneliness and alcohol, it's the only reason people go to the pub. But what if you're like me and you're devilishly handsome? What if you're like me and you can't simply enjoy a game of pinball at the pub alone because too many attractive men and women are coming up and hitting on you? Well then, Atari has got your backs, because for the first time you can enjoy a game of pinball without being in the back right hand corner of your favorite pub. For the first time in human history, you can enjoy pinball on your Atari 2600. Like regular pinball, the aim of the game is to accumulate as many points as you can, which you do by having your balls bounce around and hit as many things as you can. And to have your ball hit as many things as you can, it has to be in play as long as you can. So really the only object of pinball is to make sure your ball does not go through the holes. The way you stop the ball from doing this is using your flippers, of which you have 2 at your disposal. The way you utilize these flippers I'm not really a huge fan of. You see, to make your left flipper flip, you have to press left on your pleasure stick, and to make your right flipper flip, you have to press right on your pleasure stick. This just didn't feel really quite right, and it always felt a little bit sluggish to be able to react. I honestly can't think of a different way they could have done it, but it just feels like it lacks the tactile response you get of playing real pinball when you pound the buttons or triggers as hard as you can because of the adrenaline rushing. I guess I'm just saying that pressing left or right on your pleasure stick didn't grant the same tactile response that I'm used to. Aside from pressing left or right on your pleasure stick, you can also press forward on your pleasure stick, which triggers both of the flippers at once. While this too also had trouble giving any tactile satisfaction, the pleasure stick was used brilliantly for the plunger. Pulling down on your pleasure stick and hitting the red button to release the ball at the start of any round felt a lot like using the mechanical spring-loaded plungers on a real pinball machine, so props to them for that. Another unexpectedly cool thing they added into the game to help it emulate the real-life version of pinball is adding in nudging. If you hold down the red button and press left on your pleasure stick, the ball will be nudged left, and if you do it right, it'll be nudged right. But once again, just like real-life pinball, using the nudge feature is not without its danger, and you are at risk of tilting. If you manage to tilt the game, you lose the ability to use your flippers at all, so it's just a matter of time before you lose the ball. By adding the nudge feature into the game, you feel like you have a lot more control over the game than you would if you just had the flippers, and it's really an unexpected thing that I didn't think they would add, and I'm very thankful they did. If you're anything like me, your favorite pinball machines are themed pinball machines. And this one is sort of themed too, but not really. As you can see by the title of the game, this is called Video Pinball. And that's not just because it's a video game pinball machine, but also because it is themed video game sort of. What I'm of course referring to here is that the right rollover in the game is the Atari logo, which was a cool thing to implement. But I somehow feel like they could have gone further than this. This is, after all, Video Pinball. And if you were to play The Simpsons Pinball and there was only one reference to The Simpsons on the entire machine, you'd be a little bit disappointed. As a video game is slightly less restricted by mechanical movements, Video Pinball could have gone crazy. They could have had moving centipede targets that you had to hit with your ball to gain extra points, or at the very least they could have made the bumpers Space Invaders. I suppose they were just trying to go for a very traditional style of pinball machine, but it feels like they've wasted an opportunity here. The game is also rather disappointingly lacking any multi-ball feature, which is sort of a main staple for pinball machines these days, and I'm not really sure why it wasn't included. And while I'm nitpicking the game, I'd also like to point out that the physics is a little bit off, but as I'm not a physicist, this did not annoy me too much. On top of this, pinball for the Atari 2600 also allows you to go multiplayer, which is once again cool but also sort of pointless. Because just like Missile Command, the multiplayer for pinball on the Atari 2600 just has you taking in turns to try to get a high score, which you can achieve artificially anyway by actually taking in turns to play the game like in real pinball. Although that said, I can't really think of any better way to do a multiplayer option in pinball, so I can't complain about that too much. And I suppose the only other thing worth really mentioning in this game is the graphics. While rather simple, the graphics represent what they need to represent perfectly, and the choice of vibrant blue on a black background stands out extremely well. So in closing, what do I think of Video Pinball? Because no doubt this review has sounded a little bit up and down on it. Well, quite honestly, it's its own worst enemy and best friend. You see, it specifically targets the audience of pinball fans, and if you're a lover of pinball, this game will fall slightly short. However, also if you're a lover of pinball, this game will impress you and you'll enjoy it greatly. And if you don't have room for a pinball machine in your house, or you want a pinball machine that can also play Missile Command, then pinball on the Atari 2600 is a pretty good option for that. So I guess what I'm trying to say is if you're looking for a substitute for pinball, video pinball is not what you're looking for. However, if you're looking for a different take on pinball that feels extremely different to pinball but still retains many of its important elements, head down to your local video store and pick up a copy of Video Pinball for the Atari 2600.